1 year ago today, the first in a series of massive earthquakes rocked Nepal. Nearly 9,000 people lost their lives in the disaster. Over 20,000 people were injured, many critically. As many as 450 aftershocks have shook the country since. Nepal ranks among the most earthquake-prone countries in the world. Yet, a disaster of this magnitude had not struck Nepal for the last 80 years. And when it did, Nepal was caught unprepared. News of the disaster spread around the world in real time, and the world stood in solidarity during Nepal's hour of need. Specialized search and rescue teams from 34 countries descended on Kathmandu and quickly fanned out to remote areas to assist Nepal's civil administration. Nepal's security forces won high accolades for their professionalism. Thousands of young Nepali women and men, many who suffer tragedies of their own, volunteered to reach out to the less fortunate. Nepal's friends abroad contributed generously in humanitarian relief. In all, the earthquakes upended the lives of 8 million Nepalis, nearly a third of the population. The devastation was widespread. The government of Nepal led an extensive exercise to assess the damages and losses, which were estimated in the order of $7 billion. As it turned out, the poorest of the most vulnerable communities were hit the hardest. The government estimates that the disaster pushed nearly 1 million Nepalis back into poverty. In June last year, exactly 2 months after the first earthquake, 56 governments and international organizations came together in Kathmandu and pledged over $4 billion in reconstruction assistance. The World Bank Group was among them.
We plan to offer substantial financial support. Subject to our board's approval, this will consist of $200 million for housing support to the poor in the most affected areas, and $100 million for public budget support and to strengthen the financial sector. We will also reallocate millions of dollars in undispersed money from our Nepal portfolio based on the results of the joint post-disaster needs assessment.
From private homes to public infrastructure and farms, businesses and historical monuments, hardly anything was spared in the wake of the destruction. But from the government's own assessment, the reconstruction of rural houses stood out as one area of greatest need. Early on, the government estimated that over 500,000 homes were destroyed in the earthquake, and it called on the World Bank to assist in the area of priority reconstruction. 1 year on, Nepal's earthquake survivors are still trying to come to terms with the disaster. Many have found solace in the legendary spirit of community. Many others are still trying to reclaim their livelihoods, and it will be years before their lives will return to normal.
Didi एकजना फुपू एकजना र बजे एकजना ती 12 गतेको महाभूकम्पको कारण घर भत्केर ठिचिँदा मर्नुभएको.
Unfortunately, the earthquakes were not the only crisis to hit Nepal in 2015. The economic and social consequences of the 4-month-long border crisis starting in September 2015 have been widely reported. But from a recovery standpoint, the acute shortage of fuel and construction materials, along with the government's preoccupation with managing another set of public hardships, presented severe logistical challenges and delays. To its credit, Nepal continued to plan for reconstruction during this adversity. International organizations, NGOs, charities, and even ordinary people stepped up to support an extended relief effort. First through the wet monsoon and then the cold winter season. The patience demonstrated by the Nepali people is equally remarkable. Soon after the earthquakes, the government of Nepal promised 200,000 rupees each to families rendered homeless by the disaster. To make good on this promise, the government of Nepal, with the assistance from the World Bank and other development partners, designed the Earthquake Housing Reconstruction Program. The program is designed around certain core principles. The first principle is equity. This means that the program is very meticulous in identifying and validating legitimate beneficiaries and defining a uniform package of assistance. This will ensure that the assistance provided is even and no one is left out. Obviously, some considerations will be made. For example, female-headed households and families whose breadwinner has been killed in the earthquake are eligible for uniform top-ups. The second principle is ownership. This means that the beneficiaries themselves are primarily responsible to reconstruct their homes. Homes will be reconstructed in their original locations unless resettlement is unavoidable. The third principle is safer construction. This means that beneficiaries will be supported to build back better so that houses are more resistant to future earthquakes. The subsidy will be paid out in 3 installments. Each payment will be subject to certification by competent technical personnel in order to ensure that the funds are used to build houses according to safer standards, using local materials and enhanced traditional construction techniques.
अब बनाउने घर पनि हामीले भैँचालोले भत्किने बनाउने हो र कमसेकम अब बनाउने घर त भैँचालो ठेक्ने बनाउनु पर्यो। अब त्यसको लागि ती परम्परागत मिस्त्री हाम्रो डकर्मी दाइभाइहरू जो हुनुहुन्थ्यो अब उहाँहरूको पनि सिप वृद्धि गर्नु पर्यो। उहाँहरूले गरिरहेको तौर तरिका के हो र त्यो तौर तरिकामा के थप्नुपर्छ भनेर हामीले विभिन्न किसिमका तालिम कार्यक्रमहरू सञ्चालन गर्दैछौँ। अब त्यो तालिम पाएपछि अनि बल्ल उहाँहरूलाई थाहा हुन्छ कि हामीले यति चिज चाहिँ गल्ती गरेका रहेछौँ, अब यसरी बनायो भने भैँचालो ठेक्छ भनेर। त्यसैले यो सबै चिज गर्दाखेरि समय लिन्छ।
The fourth principle is transparency and accountability. Housing grants will be deposited directly into the bank's accounts of the beneficiaries. Every check issued from the government treasury can be tracked by the government's budget tracking system and reported for third-party verification.
I would say transparency and accountability are some of the most important design principles of the Housing Reconstruction Program. We, the World Bank, are working with the government to ensure that housing reconstruction grants are directly deposited into the bank account of the verified beneficiaries. Sometimes people don't have bank accounts, but we help them open one. We are also helping the government fine-tune its budget management information systems. This means that they can track and monitor the transfers of money in real time. And the expenditure report that can be generated from this system could be used for the third-party verification later.
In December 2015, Nepal established a National Reconstruction Authority to coordinate the recovery effort between various government and non-government agencies as well as Nepal's international development partners. The Reconstruction Authority is in its early days, staffing itself, defining legal and administrative procedures, and expanding its presence on the ground to set up the systems to carry out and monitor reconstruction activities. Since early this year, the government has deployed nearly 1,600 engineers to carry out eligibility surveys in rural areas hardest hit by the earthquakes. These teams are accompanied by social mobilizers to help understand and address grievances. As of April 1, 550,000 houses have been technically assessed for earthquake damage. The teams are progressing at the rate of 20,000 additional houses a day, and the government expects to complete the damage survey by the end of April. In late March this year, the Reconstruction Authority puts its systems to test during a pilot rollout in one community in Singati Bazaar in Dolakha district, the epicenter of the second major earthquake. Bank accounts were set up for beneficiaries who never had one before.
पैसा पाइन्छ भनेर बनाएको आशाले अनि यस्तो सरहरूले यस्तो दिनुभयो अब पैसा पाउँछु होला
भुइँचालोले के गर्यो
ए सर भुइँचालोले त बिजोग बनायो नि सबै यो एउटा घर गोड केही राखेन खाने चिज लाउने चिज केही राखेन आँडो भाँडो केही राखेन क्या सर बनाउनु पर्ने लो रोजा घर कुन हो.
Design options and cost estimates for safer standards in reconstruction were widely shared. The pilot in Singati provided many lessons for the Reconstruction Authority. These lessons are now being incorporated in the procedures for enrollment in the rest of the affected areas.
परमेसँग काम पनि गर्दै जाने पुनर्वारको काम पनि गर्दै जाने त्यसपछि गएर जहाँ त्यो समस्याका कुराहरूलाई पनि समाधान गर्दै जाने विधि प्रक्रियाहरूलाई पनि टुङ्गाउँदै जाने यो एउटा प्रक्रिया अवलम्बन गरौँ भन्ने चाहिँ हामीले ठान्यौं र चाहिँ त्यसो गर्दाखेरि जसको चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ घर बनाउनु पर्ने चाहिँ अवस्था छ त्यो चाहिँ कागजी हिसाबले समस्या छैन त्यसलाई चाहिँ अगाडि बढाउँदै जाउँ.
The ceremony in Singati even marked the Reconstruction Authority's first participation agreements with the beneficiaries.
आज मलाई शिवजीले रक्षा गरे जस्तो लाग्यो किनभने सबभन्दा पहिला मलाई शिवजीले नै घुमाएर ल्याएको हो अनि त्यसकारणले हजुरहरू पनि आउनुभयो अनि मैले पाएँ अनि पाएपछि मलाई सन्तोष छ.
अब के गर्ने त यो
पैसाले अब आधी घर बनाएको छ आधी घर बनाउनु छ त्यसकारणले त्यही खर्च त्यही गर्ने घरमै गर्ने हो.
Confident in the knowledge that its systems are sufficiently robust, the Reconstruction Authority will undertake a significantly larger rollout of the program over the next few months. No one can tell when or where the next big earthquake might strike in Nepal. The Earthquake Housing Reconstruction Program attempts to help survivors of the 2015 disaster reclaim their lives. More importantly, it is an effort to instill a culture of safer housing so that many more Nepalis can withstand future calamities. Ultimately, every life lost is one too many.